Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we got a murder mystery, a whodunit of epic proportions that, if you don't know about the DCU, might not seem as epic. Just so John tells me. So today we did Justice League Identity Crisis. Sorry, not Infinite Crisis. Identity Crisis. And this was, now there's a word in DC that they will put on certain books that are big, and some books that are kind of big that don't really tie in, but they want you to buy it and they want it to mean something. So that word is crisis. Now, this word crisis has a special meaning in the heart of DC, and that is because in the 80s they had a book called Infinite, or what is it called? Not Infinite Crisis. It was called Crisis on Infinite Earths. And then that was like a big 12-issue maxi series. And then in this book actually came out before the next Crisis book, which is called Infinite Crisis.
Okay. And
then we had Final Crisis. So the Crisis books will get read, everybody, in case you were wondering. Me and John were just talking about this.
Matt's like, okay, we're reading the Crisis. It's like, okay.
John has dipped his toe far too long into this pool of DC.
He says, you've been reading those baby spoon-feeding Marvel comics for too long.
Yeah.
And now that we've been getting you into the shallow end of the DC pool.
Yeah.
It's time to get.
I'm pushing you in. I'm pushing your ass in. That's how it is.
He says, you're getting on the high board and I'm pushing you.
So I think in the next couple months, maybe we'll figure it out when we're going to do it, but we're going to set up maybe this week. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're going to do like an Infinite Crisis Crisis on Infinite Earths, like a Crisis run, where we do like a little block of just the Crisis books.
The Crisis of DC.
Yeah, so that, to help everybody else understand too, because that shit is some daunting mythology, we'll say. And I was scared of it when I first, when I was working at the comic store. I was like, I don't know, Crisis on Infinite Earths just seems too dense, like too deep in this pool, and I never really got there. I've never read fully Crisis on Infinite Earths. I just know everything that happens into it because of everything else I've read, pretty much. And then I've never read Infinite Crisis because that came out before I worked at the comic book store, and I just heard about what happened in it, so I knew everything that happened. And then, but I did read Final Crisis, and I got all into that, and I was super into that. So, but yeah, like I said, crisis is a special word in DC. So there's only two other books I know that use the word crisis that are not at the level of Infinite Crisis or Crisis on Infinite Earths or Final Crisis, and that is this one, Identity Crisis, which has a lot of continuity bearing things that happen in it. And then there's also another one that came out recently by writer Tom King, who's not one of my favorites, but some people like him, that was called, what was it called? Heroes in Crisis. And that, I think, it had some promise according to people, but I think it floundered. Didn't pay off like this one does, I think, to me. Or at least didn't have the hard-hitting, long-lasting continuity effects that this one does, at least. So
I can say from just being a casual DC fan, like there were some, I didn't know every character in this, but of the main story, which is the important stuff, I understood what was going on, and there was some hard hitting. I was like, whoa. Did that just really just happen?
Like, holy shit.
I had to go back a couple pages and go forward a couple pages again. Like, holy crap, that just happened.
Yeah.
So.
And one thing I like about this book is I always forget not who did the main thing. I'm always like, oh yeah, I remember who did like the main thing. But there's like a couple side mysteries, and you're like, wait, who's doing these? And they have like enough like red herrings that you're like, wait, is it that guy or is it this? Like, what's going on? And then you're like, oh, she did that too, or whatever. So, like, they do a good enough job like obfuscating the other mysteries that it's still really fun to read until and you get like the whole when the whole thing's revealed, you're like, oh, now I get it. Like, that makes sense now. And so, first things first, we'll set this up a bit. Like we said, this is a murder mystery. It's a murder mystery involving the character of Elongated Man, who was like an old school DC character. He is like Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four. He is long. He can stretch out himself. I believe he is before Mr. Fantastic. Am I wrong about that?
Oh no, I don't know.
I know for sure Plastic Man is the first one. And he was bought
before, right?
by DC later on. So DC actually owns Plastic Man and Elongated Man, who have the same fucking powers. So that's weird. But then the Fantastic Four came about in the 60s. So I think Elongated Man is from the 50s, if I had to remember right. They're golden age characters. So I believe Elongated Man is like a old school member of like the JSA, the Justice Society of America, which had the old Green Lantern, the Alan Scott one that was his weakness was wood.
The caped ones.
The caped one, he was scared of wood. That's all I need to say about that Green Lantern. And then they had like a Wildcat and the old Flash, the one with like the World War I helmet. Jay Garrick is his name. And so we read some of those characters in Justice League, the Darwin Cookbook, Justice League New Frontier.
Oh yeah, no, and that was fun. I loved New Frontier.
Yeah, so some of those characters were in there. Elongated Man was not in that book. I will say the art in this book, I do not like the art in this book. It's fine, like it's serviceable.
Yeah, it's decent, especially for this being like a big one to pay attention to. Like the art's fine. There's some really nice art in this. On some panels are like, oh wow, like this is like a good piece of work here. And then there's some panels where it's like there's one in particular of Superman's face where Superman's eyes are definitely not like you definitely could not look Superman in the face and look in both of his eyes. They're kind of wobbly and out there.
Yeah, they're like too far apart. They look like Admiral Akbar's.
Yeah, something like that. So there's a couple times where I was kind of like, well, what happened? And so, but in general, so the art is, like you said, it's serviceable. It, gets the job done.
So we should say this book is written by Brad Meltzer, who's actually like a book writer, like a novelist or whatever. So he's not a traditional comic book writer. I'd say out of a lot of the novelists that try to come write comics, he does the best job that I've read. I'm trying to think of other ones that I can't really. I mean, other than Neil Gaiman, who started in comics and then wrote novels and then came back to comics. That doesn't count. But like Brad Meltzer was like an award-winning novelist and then was like, I want to write comics too. And then he does a pretty good job. And then, so the art is Rags Morales. I'm not dissing him or anything. Like he does a serviceable job. It just, for me, is not my taste. Also, the covers are by Michael Turner, and I know there's a lot of Michael Turner fans out there. I just don't like Michael Turner's art style. So
Michael Turner's was fine, and and again, not ragging on Rags.
Yeah,
but some of it was okay. So again, some of the panels were like super detailed and super like.
There's some panels that almost make me cry.
Yeah, there's some panels.
There's some real. You can tell the ones that he put all his time in.
Yeah,
and those ones look fucking amazing. And Rags, you did a great job on those.
But then the rest is kind of like, oh, okay, well,
yeah.
Like I guess see what's going on here.
There's definitely somewhere I'm like, why is he got two eyes, one eye staring? He's like a chameleon or something. He's got one eye staring at me, one's looking the other way. So, but this book starts off like we said with Elongated Man. And he's on the roof with some B-list character. Firehawk, who's like some B-list character we haven't really seen too much of. And they're like scouting some like deal that's going to happen. And basically it was like the deal that happens doesn't really matter, but it only matters because it also sets up another character named the Calculator, who, for all you who don't know, he is I don't remember him being in anything else. So that was maybe something that fell flat from this book. Like maybe he thought he created like a badass character and then no one ever used it again. But the Calculator is supposed to be like the bad Oracle.
Yeah.
Now, for all you who don't know the Oracle, you knew who the Oracle was, right?
Yeah, Oracle's Barbara Gordon.
Right, and they go out of their way to kind of show it a little bit. In
Yeah,
this,
they showed it was almost like a panel from
Killing Joke.
Killing Joke.
It was like Rags Morales drawing a panel from the Killing Joke. But yeah, in the 80s, there was a comic called The Killing Joke that Alan Moore wrote, where it wasn't supposed to be continuity, but then later on they made it in continuity because everybody loved it so much. But there's a scene where he's torturing, or the Joker is torturing Commissioner Gordon, and he shows him pictures of Barbara, Batgirl, or his daughter, getting possibly raped, for sure, at least
definitely abused
or molested somehow, and then also getting shot and her spine gets severed.
Yeah.
So she becomes a paraplegic, so she's in a wheelchair. And that was just supposed to be like a one shot or whatever. And then later on people were like, hey, it'd be cool if we have like Barbara Gordon, she's a hero, she's not defeated by this. She now becomes Oracle, who's like the Wikipedia of knowledge for all superheroes. So like everybody's got a little Oracle bug in their ear, and she can be like, hey, Robin, just so you know, like there's a thing going on over here at this time or whatever, like some robbery happened. Or,
I mean, she becomes very indispensable
Yeah,
too,
she
not
becomes
just
a very
Batman,
good character.
but to the Justice
Oh
League.
yeah, this is everywhere. Like she talks to all the characters. So she becomes a very cool character on her own, and I would highly recommend like reading stuff that has her in it. I haven't read too much stuff with her in it, but people love this character mainly because she's one of the few like disabled superhero characters, and I don't think she is anymore. Somehow they
miraculously
paralyzed her.
it's kind of,
It was controversial, and I don't know if they're gonna bring her back paralyzed or whatnot. But yeah. Anyway, that's new continuity. We're talking about 90s continuity. So so this is still like the early 2000s. I think this came out like 2003 or 2004, around. I want something like that. I can't remember the exact time, but like you said, this is before Infinite Crisis. So like there's still a lot of these characters that are around that you probably won't see ever again once Infinite Crisis happens, and a lot of them die. But in this one, we got Elongated Man, and he's scouting this out. Like we said, the Calculator is supposed to be buying, or he's helping a guy buy stuff. So what the Calculator does is, like, someone calls him and is like, hey, I need to get whatever, guns or something. And he's like, oh, okay, let me hook you up with, I know the person just for that or whatever. And he'll hook you up with whatever. And then you meet with that person and it works out, and then he gets a fee. So they're just scouting, waiting for this deal to go down. And they're sitting there on the roof talking, and we're getting like, oh, he's talking about his wife and how much he loves his wife. And
that was one thing that I was kind of like, he was sitting up there with her, and she's like, so tell me how you met your wife. And then there was a little bit of like, man, all those female superheroes asked me how I met.
He's like, I don't want to be a misogynist, but.
Yeah.
And she's like, but. And he's like, well, but like the only people who ask me, who say like, so tell me about your wife while we're doing stakeouts are women. It's like Batman never says, so tell me about your wife, or like, which is, I can totally see that happening. Like,
I mean, it's interesting because the other side of that is there. He's like, oh man, she like was friends and knew all the superheroes, but she chose me. She could have had any one of them. She looked in Clark Kent's pretty blue, or Superman's pretty blue eyes.
Yeah.
And, Batman's mysterious, demeanor or whatever.
Yeah, Barry's hard ass.
But but she chose me, and I was like, okay, so like this is big.
Yeah,
obviously.
and he's just trying to set up this like true love, like this is real, like this is like, he really loves his wife, and even she loves him so much that she goes out of her way every birthday to set up like a mystery. And we see in the like through this, like while they're talking, other people, we get the other JLA characters who like, we get Green Arrow, and he's talking to his son, and he's like, yeah, they got me to like Sue Dibney got me, which is Elongated Man's wife. Sue Dibney got me to like jump out of a cake this year or some shit or whatever, and like to surprise him for his birthday. Because what she does is she sets up like, the only thing I can think of is some kind of like what are those rooms that people do now where they like have to solve mysteries to get out of
the
the
escape
room?
rooms.
Yeah, I feel like that's what she sets up, like some kind of escape room mystery
every
thing
year.
for him to figure out, and then when he does, like it turns out,
Yeah,
something, it explodes out of the cake or whatever in the middle of the room.
yeah. Because with the Elongated Man, and I didn't know this going into it, but apparently he's like
A detective,
the second greatest detective.
basically. Yeah,
just under Batman.
just under Batman.
He's a great detective, and
Yeah,
they make a point of like his nose wiggles, and like that's how he knows like there's a mystery of others. I don't know. That was a little.
it's some weird dumb 50 shit. All right, I don't know. They came up with his powers when the comics code was just in effect. So they're like, we can't say anything else. His nose wiggles.
His nose wiggles.
When he knows when mystery is afoot, because his nose knows. So,
The nose knows.
yeah. So yeah, we get like the establishment, like really hard, heavy-handed, of like they love each other. We get it. Okay.
Okay.
And then also, this is one thing I thought about, like them, like the setup for this, and you can totally tell that this is a book writer, because he overwrote a little bit. He did a pretty good job of not overwriting, but he did do a little bit of overwriting when he would say, he would put like time minutes on panels. He'd be like 12 minutes till now, and I'm like, we don't need to know that. We already know this is like a mystery or whatever, So like, just let us read the comic. And then we'll be like, oh shit, I want to keep reading because it was still good. Like I never got bored in this comic and needed to be like, what's going to happen in 12 minutes? Well, I can't wait. Like it just made it confusing. I'm like, wait, how many minutes are we at now?
Because he hopped a little bit too. It's like, this happened like 30 minutes till now. This happened 12 minutes till now.
Yeah. To me, I just stopped reading those and was like much easier to follow. Yeah. Like, okay, I don't need to read these. But he did introduce some like characters with that too. But basically, the other thing was the guy that what's his name, the calculator. There you go. The guy that the calculator is helping make a deal is like a teleporter named Bolt.
Yeah.
And I never heard of him before, but he looks like the Punisher.
He looks just like
I thought it was the Punisher.
He's even got a little skull.
He's got a skull on his shirt.
It's a really tiny skull.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like the Punisher skull, but it is close enough that at first I was like, wait, this isn't the Punisher. Like, what am I waiting for here? Like, is he gonna come out and shoot the bad guys? I was like, no, he is a bad guy. He's trying to figure out if he needs to, or like if he's gonna like double cross these guys or whatever, or what's gonna happen. So, so they have this thing where all the Justice League members are talking, like individually in their own areas, and as they're talking, they get a call like, "Oh, you need to come down." And they all have pagers. All the Justice League pagers coming out, and that tells you what time this is, because they all have Justice League pagers. No, not cell phones, not whatever, pagers. So that their pagers beeping like, "Oh my god, I have to get out of here now.
What's happening? I have to go.
Something bad's happening." And so, so what we find out is Sue Dibney, Elongated Man's wife, is preparing for his birthday. She hears something in the house. She's like, "What the heck?" And then she gets a phone call, and she's like, "Oh, is that you?" And then like, or like she thinks it's Ray Palmer, I think, right? She's like, "Ray, is that you?"
Ray, is that you? Yeah.
And then like, it's like, there's scenes of violence interposed with one another. So there's Bolt goes, and I guess he goes to like double cross these dealers there's something in a box, we don't know what's in the box, that he's buying, and he like gets shot up while trying to get
he teleports in, and they're like, "Well, where's our money?" He's like, "Well, what money?"
Yeah, what money? And they're like, boom, 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 and they shoot him.
He's not very fast.
He's not a very good bad guy, I guess. And then so he gets shot like 12 times. I don't know, like totally gets almost killed. And then this is like at the same time we get panels of Sue Dibney getting what looks like the shit beat out of her, and then she looks like she's getting burned alive after she's already like beat the fuck up. And like she looks like she gets set on fire. Yeah. By someone who knows her. He says, the person says like, "Goodbye, Sue," and then like burns her alive. So then and then it says like 30 seconds till now. That's what this whole thing is like. The seconds are like till the big moment in each issue. So each issue has these things, and I was like, you don't need those, fucker. Just tell the issue or whatever. So, but Elongated Man Ralph comes home, Ralph Digby, and he's like, oh my god, and this is like the best panel of the whole fucking thing, is Ralph. He has to concentrate to keep himself in like human looking mode or whatever, right? Because he's made of taffy or whatever. So, so he sees his wife like horribly burned. I guess where he lives has like a sprinkler system or whatever. So put the fire out, and he even said this is like the big like kicker is she had a birthday present for him, and she's like, I even knew like he knew what I was gonna get him, but he didn't know the second thing I got him that she put in the box. And what it says is it's a pregnancy test, and it says 2 lines equals a positive, daddy. And so she was gonna have a baby.
Having a baby.
They've been trying to have a baby for a long time apparently, so that was gonna be a big deal. So she dies pregnant, and he loses all control of his shape while he's trying to like hold her body. So he looks like he's melting in the water. Like he's like, yeah, like just amazing.
I agree.
Like,
this panel is very cool.
Very hard hitting panel. Rags, you did fucking good on this one. You know, like sometimes that's why I'm like he would knock it out of the park. Maybe the schedule was too hard on him, and so like because there was some panels at the end where I was like, this don't look like you. Like it looked like some filler artist or whatever. Like at the like the last couple pages. So like it might have been that this was on such a hard deadline that he just couldn't put out the work he wanted. But so like yeah, that's basically like how this issue ends pretty much is like Sue dies, and then the effects of everybody finding out what happens. So we get like the big relationships that are in this are you get Tim Drake and his dad, where Tim Drake's dad like I guess just found out that he was Robin.
Yeah.
He's the Robin after Jason Todd. And so Batman is now like trying to, I mean, he's been Robin for a couple years now, because maybe 10 years or something. Because like I'm reading the Nightfall series from the 90s, and he's in that. So
okay, so he's been in it for a while, but his dad
didn't know.
Yeah.
So his dad now found out and is like, I need you to be safe or whatever, you know, and like,
I can't talk right now, Dad. I gotta go fight crime.
He's like, God damn it, Dad, I'm with Batman. He's so much cooler than you. He's like, but I love you.
I wish he was my real dad.
Oh, Jesus. I'm glad there wasn't lines like that in this. But it was very genuine. I felt like these scenes with him and his dad were very genuine and like not over dramatized, because they could have been. They could have been like you just said, where it's like, I wish Batman was my dad, and like he's so much cooler than you, and blah blah blah. And then we get also like the some of the bad guys hear about, you know, what's been going on too. We get like so a lot of B list bad guys are in this. You get like Captain Boomerang and like the Monocle and Merlin and some like
I was like Merlin.
weird characters I never heard of really. The only person I heard of was Dr. Light. Mainly from this story is what I know him from, but later on it's a woman. Dr. Light becomes a woman later on. I don't think it's the same character, but I'm not 100% sure. So, and then I knew who the Boomerang was. So that was like just because I've read old Flash shit. So
Deathstroke's in this too.
Right, and the other people who are in this that is like the main relationship is Ray Palmer and his divorced wife Jean. So Ray Palmer had got a divorce from his wife, and her name is Jean Loring now, but I'm gonna call her Jean Palmer just to piss her off. And then so he comes to her because, like, you know, everybody's worried now that Elongated Man's his identity was out there. Like, everybody knew who he was. He didn't wear a mask. He just wore a suit. So, you know, his wife being killed was like, oh shit, are they going after like superheroes' wives, like, or families or whatever? So like people got to be worried now. So he comes to like tell her, you know, hey, just so you know, Sue's dead. I'm like here to just let you know and double check, make sure you're okay.
Yeah, I'm here for you.
If you need anything, kind of thing. So then like the Justice League splits up because now we got like the A, B, C, D, list of Justice League characters, and they're like sent on separate missions. So you get like Blue Beetle and Kid Charlemagne and like whatever, like weird people. I don't even know if that's a character. I just made that up. That's the name of a Steely Dan song, so I'm assuming that's the name of a superhero. But if I was gonna be a superhero, that would be my name, especially if I was like a sidekick. And I just play smooth jazz. But yeah, so there's like 5 different Justice League teams that kind of split off. JSA too, like they kind of combine in this. And for those who don't know, JSA is the Justice Society of America. That was the Golden Age heroes, like I said earlier. The Justice League was the Silver Age heroes that came after them. And in DC continuity, they have like kind of become, they like know about each other and they exist at the same time right now.
Yeah.
That changes depending on what crisis is going on. But, that was what the crisis was about, was like cleaning up those continuities and whatnot. So
you had like the Teen Titans out looking for.
Yeah, the Teen Titans are helping.
Yeah. Basically, they were all looking for. They're like, obviously someone burned them, so it's a villain that has fire powers.
Burn powers. So they're like, it's got to be.
Everybody go after, and they start naming all the teams go after a different fire. I'm like, okay, there's a bunch of villains that all have fire powers. Apparently.
Yeah, the only one I knew was the one from Batman, the Firefly.
Yeah.
So, the other good panel from this is when there's a funeral for Sue, and this was like really hard. This was like. I was reading this like, God damn it, don't cry, man. Like, it was like Ralph goes up to talk after Wonder Woman talks.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, everybody's like, come on, Ralph.
You can do it.
And
yeah.
Like, Green Arrow's like, you can do it, pal. Come on. And Hawkman's like, be strong. And then he's like up there and he's like, I can't, I'm sorry. And as he's saying that, like his cheeks and everything start to like, he melts again, and he just can't keep his body together. He's too broken up about it. So
yeah, they really show he's in pain, and that does solidify the heart of this. Of like, this is a horrible thing that has happened to Elongated Man.
Yeah, and also everybody knew Sue. Like, she's been kind of I guess she was an honorary Justice League member or something. Like they kind of, I think back together, they were like kind of a team. Like. He's the investigator, but she's like I do the office stuff, and whatever. So I never read Elongated Man, but like that's what it seemed to me, like something like that. So
they all knew her.
Kind of part of they all knew her. They all love Sue, and this was like a big hit for everybody. So, like we said, they go break off. Oh, also we should say when they go to the crime scene. Isn't Batman the only one allowed in or something?
So Batman went to the crime scene first, basically. He was like, okay, I've looked this over, but nobody touched anything, like, because I'll be back or whatever. That's right.
Yeah, and everybody just kind of bursts in.
Yeah, and like Green Arrow's like, we're going to take a look ourselves.
Yeah, fuck that, Bats. So there was a lot of, like, Justice League rivalries in this that you find out kind of why later on.
Yeah.
But that's some, like, big continuity stuff they reveal later on. But they... Like you would think, because in the 80s and 90s, Batman was in the Justice League, and he was like part of it, and he was like the leader of it and stuff. So it's kind of like, that's my favorite Justice League, the Justice League International. So we should read some of that too. But like this is kind of just after that, and I think there's tensions and stuff, and they're kind of this one kind of like rewrote some of that history and whatnot. So, yeah, like we said. We got like 5 teams broken up trying to find other people with fire powers since she was burned. And then there's a couple people that are doing the autopsy on her. And, as they're like looking at her, they're like, wait a second, like she doesn't have any smoke in her lungs. So she was burned after she died. And like they're doing the whole CSI thing. Yeah. And those are such like characters I didn't know. John didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know what their names were. Like these are like F list heroes. Like we don't even know who the fuck
they were in shadows half the time too. So.
Yeah. So
you're like, he's wearing glasses and he's doing the autopsy. Okay, he's a doctor of some sort.
Exactly. And so this is where, like, so out like we said, there's 5 teams that go out, and then there's like another group of core heroes that kind of stay behind and don't go out, and it's Ralph Digby, Elongated Man, you get Hawkman, you get Green Arrow, you get Zatanna, and who else is it?
Canary.
Black Canary,
Atom.
and the Atom.
Yeah.
Is the Atom in it? No, I don't think the Atom's there.
Oh no, but
No.
the Atom's not part of that group. I'm sorry.
No, it's just those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's Zatanna, Hawkman, Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Elongated Man. So they're staying behind because they know a secret that no one else knows. And of course, right when they're about to talk about it, Wally West, who was the Flash in this, is like, actually Hawkman is like, hey, I see you there. Like, why don't you step out? You know, and like Wally West, like, oh, you saw me vibrating? Like, you think I wouldn't notice that, like, you guys sent everybody else to go out and didn't do anything? So, yeah, we find out.
And this was fun, too, because Hawkeye does that, and then, Hawkman, pardon me, does that.
Oh, yeah.
And then Green Arrow's like, you too, Green Lantern, and it's Kyle Rayner.
Kyle Rayner, yeah.
And he's like, I see you, and then he just appears like out of the the air out of nowhere, and he's like, how did you see me? And he was like, oh no, I just fibbing.
Yeah, I just figured you were there because you guys are like, tighter than brothers or whatever. So.
Yeah, so that was just kind of fun. Green Arrow, it has fun little sarcastic and or like quippy lines. He's the probably one of the few pieces of like comedy in this like very dark and serious comic, and that was nice.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Ray Palmer is there because like I'm looking at him and he's on someone's shoulder. He's so small, and sometimes it's hard to see in the pages. But also, he did a good job in this of distinguishing who's who by putting a color with, like, whenever they would like cut away and you'd hear talking, like narration or whatever of characters. If there was a lot of characters, you'd have like Green Lantern's green or Green Arrow's green with a different kind of green or whatever, or
Flash is red.
Yeah, so
Batman was like a grayish dark blue.
Adam was blue, like a light blue, like his costume. So there was like this cuts to like a whole scene from the past where they reveal why we're like separate from the other people, because we know a secret. We know it's Dr. Light, and they're like, well, how do you know it's Dr. Light? And they're like, well, this happened.
Dr. Light has been planning for a while.
Yeah, Dr. Light is a like B-list character, I believe, from The Flash or something. He's like a bad guy that's not really been that threatening. And this is actually like kind of a retcon of why he's like that. And I like these where like a character's been dumb and they like explain, well, no, he didn't know he wasn't always dumb, but then this happened and that's why, like, kind of thing. So I like those kind of things where they kind of retcon it to make sense for the past kind of thing. So, but like Dr. Light, I don't know what he does other than like he can shoot light out of his hands or whatever.
He had some kind of light beam, apparently, gun.
Yeah, but it seemed, he had a light ray that he wanted to go steal. This is what they say. Somehow in the past, this was like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, the Justice League was out of the tower. Sue Dibney was in the satellite. I was out of the tower. The Justice League was out of the Justice League satellite.
Out in space.
Sue was there by herself, chilling, looking at the stars as you would if your fucking husband was in the Justice League, right? Yeah. So I would be there every fucking day if my husband was in the Justice League. So if Snowball was in the Justice League, that's my dog. If my dog was in the Justice League, I would be there. If Crypto,
it's like Crypto,
yeah. So I would be there every day just looking at the Earth or whatever. So, but yeah, he somehow sneaks onto the satellite and he's looking around and they're like, well, we thought maybe he was there to sabotage stuff. Some thought he was there to steal his ray, like his first like light ray or whatever. But then he happened upon Sue, and she's just a regular woman. She doesn't have powers or anything. And he's a bad guy, and he does what bad guys do. He basically, disables her, and then really
very.
It's not graphic, but it is graphic. It's like you get the point.
Yeah, it's not graphic, but it definitely is implied with the way it's drawn a bit that she's it's de-escalated to where she's being like pushed down on a table, and then her arms are held down.
Yeah.
And
she's like,
bent
please
over.
no, don't,
So
or whatever. Yeah.
like it's
so like
very, very rape-esque.
no, she gets raped, and basically she had pushed like the Justice League call button or whatever, but they didn't come in time. They like, they were seconds behind or whatever.
Yeah.
So they come as he's raping her, and to save her, and then but it's already happened, right? So like, Ralph's like, oh my God, like what the fuck, and then they like restrain him, and he was saying things like, I'm gonna rape all your family.
Yeah, like, oh, now I know, like, this is like the worst thing that could have happened, so I'm gonna come after all your family.
Yeah, by the way you're reacting, like I can see, like this is what really gets your goat, and like
this is what villains should be doing.
Yeah, we should really be going after all your families, being real villains and shit. So yeah, like basically, he's threatening all of them. Like, I will find who you love and who you care about, and I will kill them or rape them or whatever. And so they knock him out, and they're like, okay, what do we do? Because like he's fucking threatening everybody here, and they're like, well, maybe we can like have Zatanna like wipe his mind or whatever. So that's what they do. They're like, I guess she's before she has done things like erase like a memory that just happened. So like if you said like, hey Bruce, in front of him, and you're like, fuck, it's Batman, not Bruce, she could be like, forget Bruce or whatever, and he would be like, oh, I don't remember that, but she's talking about like erasing like a whole like scene of like how to get into the Justice Tower, and
I'm gonna do a magical lobotomy.
Yeah, basically she's gonna stick a magical ice pick in his brain, swirl it around a little bit, and
he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. I'm sure he'll be fine. And so they vote on it, and everybody kind of, there's like an argument, obviously, but this is where you get like the more you get some characters.
By they vote, so a couple of the heroes have taken Sue to the hospital,
right?
And so by they voting, it's only a few of the superheroes that are left decide on this vote themselves.
It's Zatanna, it's Green Lantern, it's Hawkman, it's Flash, and Ray Palmer, and Canary. And so it's these guys that were there, like the ones that didn't include themselves in the rounding up of the other fire people. And so they all vote, and yes, there's arguments. I believe. This kind of was like on the political thing where we all know Hawkman is more of like a fascist or whatever, and so is Green Lantern because he's a cop. And then you have the communist hippie who's Green Arrow, and he was against it. So like he's like, we can't do that or whatever. And they're like, well, maybe we can. And like they have an argument. I like that they didn't just have him on those lines though, because Green Arrow is like, yeah, we kind of had to or whatever. Like,
yeah, like
this is. He doesn't like it, but he's like, you fucking fascist, but also, yeah, I guess you're right on this one, like kind of thing. So he goes along with it, and basically they do it. They with Barry Allen, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, Zatanna, Hawkman, and Black Canary, and Green Arrow and Ray Palmer decide to have, the lobotomy done on him. So Zatanna does it, and then he comes out, and he's like, he's like, they're like, man, I thought he was a lot tougher than that or whatever. And it's like, no, apparently after that he was just kind of like an idiot or whatever, like a shitty villain or something. So he was just like, me am Dr. Lightness or whatever, and like, I hate Flash bad man or whatever, So apparently after this, he just never was the same as he was before. So that's revealed. And then we get like this B plot, which is, it's only to set up like kind of a thing that happens later on. But you get like the bad guys, like we said, kind of know about, what had happened to Sue and how she died. So we get like, the Monocle and Captain Boomerang and Slade and stuff. And they're, we knew Slade from the Teen Titans episode we did. So, that was kind of cool to see. This actually had more of his powers then
Yeah,
he seemed way more badass in this.
I was gonna say he seemed like he was gonna take on all of them by himself, perfectly fine in this one.
Yeah, it was cool. I liked Slade was very good in this compared to him in the Teen Titans. He was okay, but that was this is 20 years separated. So
yeah.
So
well, yeah, they the couple of them they go after Dr. Light, and Dr. Light is there, but he has Slade with him. And he's like, well, yeah, you're not gonna take me alive, Kappas.
Yeah,
and
so Slade, he pays Slade to like help him escape because he knows they're all after me now. And also, while he's fighting them, he remembers. He starts to remember like what happened. And
that's
things.
right, yeah.
And so like as they're fighting, he has the memory of like, wait a second, like they lobotomized me and they did all this stuff to me and. Like, what the fuck? I remember now. And it's not Barry. Wally has a flash too. I don't know how he does, but somehow he's connected for a second to like this light, to Dr. Light's mind. Yeah. And he gets a flash of a picture he sees. And what the picture is unlike what Green Arrow told him. He was like, the 7 of us decided or whatever. There's actually an 8th person in that picture in Dr. Light's remembrance of what happened, and Batman is there. So that's where wait, what? Batman was there?
Minute, Batman was
it's
there.
Kind of a reveal. And that happens a little bit later where they reveal that, but like that was like a big thing that happens in that battle.
I have to say one little thing in that battle. I really like how Deathstroke decided how easily he took Green Arrow pretty much out of the picture.
Yeah,
this is like Green Arrow is like going to shoot him with arrows, and then he goes to slice at him with his sword, and Green Arrow's like, "Oh man, you're getting kind of slow," and he's like, "No, this is purposeful," and he cuts the ends off of all of his arrows so they don't have the feathers at the end to make them fly. I was like, oh,
like he thought he was aiming for his head, but he's like, no, I wasn't. I was aiming for all your arrows.
Like, yeah, so now you don't have any arrows. I was like, oh, that's perfect. Yeah. That's such a quick thing.
It's funny, like Slade in this, like he's more like a master tactician too. So like, he is able to take everybody out at least initially, and then something happens where they piss him off so much. I can't remember exactly what happens, but he had like all this stuff planned. Where like even he took out Zatanna by like punching her in the liver, and then she's like vomiting all over the place and stuff. So
you can't do your spells if you can't talk.
Yeah, and so and then I liked how he got rid of Hawkman. He like cut the straps on Hawkman's wings, and he just like the wings fall off of him. Yeah, and he like falls to the ground. He's like, oh shit. And so yeah, like basically they're able to get a hold of him because. What is it? He's distracted because he was gonna try to use Green Lantern's ring, right?
Oh yeah, he like grabs Green Lantern and like he breaks Green Lantern's fingers.
Yeah, by just squeezing his hand. You're like, whoa, Slade's pretty fucking strong.
This Green Lantern is
Kyle Rayner.
Kyle Rayner. So I guess we assume he's not quite as strong as Hal Jordan was.
No one likes Kyle Rayner. I mean, that's not true, but I don't like Kyle Rayner.
But yeah, he's like going for the ring. He's like, you know what? This thing works on willpower, right? I think I got a pretty strong will. Let's see what happens. And then right when he's doing that, he gets stabbed in the eye with one of the arrows, and that's what pisses him off. And then they're able to take him on after that. So, and that's when he sees like Dr. Light sees all the heroes grabbing Slade and he's like, I remember. And I always imagine him talking like the Monarch from Venture Brothers. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Actually,
he looks kind of like one of those villains, like just perfectly. He's the Monarch, and so like yeah, I'm Dr. Light, and so that's how I imagine him talking. But yeah, so then he remembers all this stuff, and he does like his light beam, because he's so angry, and he gets away because of that. And then before they know it, like Superman shows up and stuff. And I like this. They even say like how the superheroes. They're like talking, and like Flash is like, I can't believe, you keep all this stuff from Clark about like the memory thing. And he's like, do you think we keep it away from him? Like he only hears what he wants to hear. And then they show his ear. So like he obviously can hear. He's super hearing. He can hear Lois across the earth or whatever. Like he can hear them say, hey, we brainwashed whatever. And he's okay with not knowing it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he knows it, but he doesn't need to know it, if you know what I mean. And then they talk about like, well, this isn't the first time that's happened. Like, what are the other times this has happened? And so they go into like how some bad guys traded bodies with the JLA one time in like an old issue or something, and they found like a magic box that like switched bodies. So then they took pictures of the superheroes without their masks on, and then they had to wash their minds, and then like all these people had to get their minds washed from all these things that happened. It wasn't the first time, and like even this isn't the first time it's happened to heroes and stuff too.
Yeah.
And so then it's kind of like, oh shit, who's been doing this stuff or whatever. So and then we see like another side storyline is, so Captain Boomerang's the only character who really matters out of the B line of those superhero or the super villains. He finds out that like his son actually his son is alive. He didn't even know he had a son, but his wife, who divorced him or whatever, dies, and he sees the obituary and then said like, oh, who was survived by her son or whatever.
Yeah.
He finds out he had a son. He's like, holy shit, I gotta go reconnect with my son. So he goes to talk to, or just like see that kid. He talks to him. They kind of reconnect and everything. Yeah. So then like another thing happens that's shocking where what's her name? Jean
Palmer.
Jean Palmer. Yeah, we're calling her.
Yeah. Adam's ex-wife.
Adam's ex-wife. She gets attacked where someone tries to hang her over a door, which I thought was a weird thing, but like
yeah, it's like tied to one side of the door and then just over the top of the door.
Yeah, there's like a noose or whatever, and they try to hang her and everybody's there, and she gets saved in time though. Like,
yeah, Adam shows up just in time through the phone.
Yeah, and he like rips the rope apart and with his little molecular body or whatever, and then he's able to save her.
I did kind of like he's like trying to like give her mouth to mouth and wake her up, and like her eyes went back, and I was like, oh, I thought she was dead for a second. And then she's like, just like the old days, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Calm down, lady.
When you read that again after knowing stuff, you're like, oh, that's kind of weird.
That's a little foreboding,
creepy. Yeah. But yeah, so we get like the heroes are still out to figure out who did it, and like also like they some people think it's Dr. Light, some people don't.
Superman's like, it's not Dr. Light.
Yeah, like but what the main thing is, they're trying to, like, Batman's the one who's really trying to figure it out. You know, we all know Batman can solve it. Like, you know.
Yeah, Batman's the only one we don't see, and then when we finally see him, it's like, no, he's in his cave. He's gonna figure this out.
Yeah, and so I like this part. Another guy who goes to try to solve it is Oliver Queen, but he don't have the smarts that Batman has. He's just a bleeding heart liberal. So he goes to talk to his old pal Hal Jordan, who you were confused by. And actually, as I was reading this, I was like, I wonder if John's going to know who this is. He goes to a cemetery to go look at the grave of Hal Jordan, and he steps on the grave, and who appears but the Spectre.
The Spectre, yeah. And I was like, okay. And then the Spectre is like, they're talking for a sec, and then the Spectre turns like into Hal Jordan. I was like, oh, the Spectre's being nice, like having like a conversation with conversation with an old buddy, and then Matt had to re-explain to me.
Yes, so in the 90s, Hal Jordan went crazy with Parallax, turned into Parallax, and killed a lot of people, like the whole Green Lantern Corps and like a bunch of other people.
Good Lord!
And so that's when, and then he like because he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. When he was like kind of like fighting the Parallax inside of him, he like flies into the sun and kills himself. And so then he is reborn as Hal Jordan, the Spectre. So at this time, he's still the Spectre. Green Lantern Rebirth has not happened yet. But he even alludes to Green Lantern Rebirth in this, because like Ollie's like, so if you're the Hal I know, you're trying to figure out a way out of this Spectre thing, huh? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm working on it. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this Spectre. Yeah, I got something in the works, you know. So, but I like that moment a lot, because it was just like, it was like old buddies, you know, because they used to travel in space together.
And it was kind of fun because he was like, so you know who's killing because you see like who died.
Oh yeah, that's why he called him, because he's like, you know who it is, but you can't tell. He's
So
like,
just
I
tell
can't
me.
tell.
And he's like, no, I can't tell you. He's like, oh, I know you can't, but you can give me some hints, right? And then he's like, no, I can't do that.
No, I can't do it.
He's like, but when you find out who it is, beat the hell out of him. He's like, I will, but you sure you can't tell me, can't give me any clues? He's like, nah, I can't do that.
No. It's so then the next big thing that happens is, everybody's worried about their families, because it seems like someone's attacking the wives, at least, of superheroes. Then we know who the main wife of the main superhero, the S-Man, Superman, is Lois Lane. She gets a letter in the mail that says, I know who your husband is, and the S is spelled with the S, the
chest,
Superman chest symbol. And she's like, oh my God, and it says, you're next. And so but what we don't see, or what we didn't guess, I guess, is that that's not who's next. And what actually happens is, well, I guess in between this and that and the next scene that I was going to say is Ray Palmer and his wife rekindle their love, his ex-wife. So they,
and basically he's like, man, with everything going on, I realize, like, man, I still have feelings for you. I feel like we could work this out if we try or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, okay, well,
like, we love each other.
yeah. It says, like, I love that every time that they had a conversation, it was like
the divorcees.
Yeah, and then here it was like when they're rekindled, it's like lovers again.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it was like a nice little stamp on it or whatever. Then also another cool scene that happens, and this is like another big thing that is a moment that no one really talks about because no one cares about this character too much. But Firestorm was like fighting. Like we said, they're trying to find all who knows about who's killing these people, and now they're worried about Lois Lane dying, so they're trying to figure out who this person is before she gets killed. So
they're just tracking down like every villain at this point.
Yeah, every villain.
What do you know?
And so he's fighting with Vixen and Captain Marvel or Shazam and some night dude. I don't know who the night dude is. He's Kid Charlemagne. That's what I'm saying. So, I don't know what his name is, like Sir Lancelot or some shit. And he's got a sword, and he's in like knight armor, and so they're fighting, and all of a sudden, like this shadow demon guy, bad guy that was fighting Vixen, like goes through her, grabs the sword out of the knight's hand, and stabs Firestorm
in the chest.
In the chest. And Firestorm's like, oh my God, I'm going to explode. I'm like a nuclear reactor. And if I don't, everybody will die like in a 10-mile radius. So he's like, tell my parents I love them. And then actually Firestorm is a professor and a young boy. So the boy's like, tell my mom and dad I love them. And the professor's like, I'm old. And then like, he's like, finally, I'm going to die.
Yeah, I think so. They go up into, I guess, the atmosphere into space. And
yeah. And then, and so, yeah, like he goes in the atmosphere and he blows up and he dies. So that's old Firestorm.
Firestorm is dead.
So that was like a big thing that happened that no one really talks about. And then also we're getting like now Captain Boomerang, he knows his son. He's trying to teach his son how to use boomerangs.
They're throwing boomerangs
together. They're playing catch together in the park.
With explosive boomerangs.
Yeah, Captain Boomerang's got all his evil boomerangs. So he's got like explosive boomerangs and razor sharp boomerangs and all this stuff. And this was a weird reveal, and I think they're alluding to something right here, but so Captain Boomerang's son throws the razor boomerang at him, and it's too fast, and it looks like it's coming at the dad, and it's going to kill him. And then his son's able to run over there and save him. He's like, "You have super speed," and it's like, "Wait, are
you my son?" Or
I think what they were saying was that he's like that Captain Boomerang raped Iris or something.
Yeah, something
like that. Maybe, I don't know.
I thought it was alluding to that maybe it's not really Captain Boomerang's son, and it's
no, it's his son. That's from what I understand.
Well, yeah, because he's really good with a boomerang.
Yeah, he's really good with a boomerang too. So I think they're trying to say somehow fast genes also got into his son, which I was like, I guess they're alluding that
Iris is just a human to Barry Allen, right?
I don't know.
My understanding.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of Barry Allen left in her. I don't know.
He raped Barry. I don't know. So I don't know. But either way,
just a weird. It
was like a weird
yeah.
moment where I'm like, I'm not sure about this. I don't remember this. So, but also every time something like big happened in this comic, there'd be like a panel of like glass shattering with all the superheroes. Like anything was like anytime something important happened, you'd see like this page of like the superheroes, their faces in shattered glass. So that was supposed to be a moment because there was a shattered glass panel. So that's why I think it's something like maybe he raped Iris or something like that, and maybe that's another thing they erased from memories or something, you know?
That's true. They said it happened multiple times, though.
Yeah. So, but this one, the main thing that happens with this, because like we said, everybody's worried about Lois Lane being killed, because God forbid, you know, Lois Lane got killed. We find out, you know, Tim Drake goes to go, you know, fight one night with Batman. And his dad gets, there's a box left on his...
Dad's like, I'm proud of you, son. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to fight with Batman.
God, Dad, you're so annoying. I hate you. He's like, I love you, son. And then it's not like that at all. Tim Drake's a really nice kid. But
I just like the way it ends because it does look like he's like, okay, I'm going to fight with Batman. He's like, okay. And as he jumps out the window, he's like, I'm proud of you, son.
Yeah. Well, he said, I'm proud of you, son. And then he looks back and he's gone. So it's kind of like how Batman always leaves before the conversation's ended or whatever. But yeah, so then Jack Drake is his name. He finds a box and he's like, Tim, did you leave a thing for me? And it says Jack Drake, but the R is a Robin symbol circled. And he opens it up and there's a 45, a Colt 45 in there, 1911. And so he... it
says,
protect yourself. And so all of a sudden, he's able to get... I guess he's got like a call button. He gets Oracle on the phone. He's like, Oracle, I need your help. This is Robin's dad. I need help. Someone's trying to kill me. I got a box that says protect yourself, and I hear like someone running on the roof, and something's happening. And then I guess Batman, you know, they hear it, but they're far enough away now that it's like, I don't think we're gonna make it, you know. And he's like, you gotta help.
You gotta help me. He's like, not again.
Yeah, and he's like, I won't let it happen again. And then so he's having flashbacks of his own parents dying and shit while you know Tim Drake's hearing this whole thing's being transmitted in their ears through Oracle. So Oracle's talking, but she's like, I guess he's got the button pushed in or whatever. And so we're hearing like what he's hearing.
Oracle, there's someone at the door.
Yeah, he's like, I'm trapped. Like, I had to run into the room and blah, blah. Like, you know, you hear like, bam, and like door kicks open. And what we find out is, because we also cut back to like another kid, and it's Captain Boomerang's son, and he left a note, Captain Boomerang left a note saying like, son, like, you're going to be proud of your old dad today. Why don't you read the papers tomorrow? Like, you'll see I'm not just a washed up old man or whatever. Like, I'm back in action. And then so we find out.
We didn't mention, so Captain Boomerang, if you're just like, oh yeah, it's that guy, he's got a boomerang on his head.
I think people know him now because of the
or
Flash
Courtney,
TV show.
Oh, the TV show.
He's in the Flash TV show with Jai Courtney and all those people.
But either way, in both of those, he's also a younger, more well-fit person, for sure.
Well, that's supposed to be his son. I think that's his son later on.
His son.
Yeah.
But Captain Boomerang in this
is the original one from the 60s. So he's all fat and bald
He is
now.
fat, balding, washed up very much. He made me feel like it was Danny DeVito.
Yes.
From Twins, but a little older.
Amazing. That would be amazing if Danny DeVito played Captain Boomerang in a movie. But yeah, so...
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure you understood the Captain Boomerang that kicked down the door. It's not like...
It's not the hot... Yeah. Jai, what's his name?
Jai Courtney.
Jai Courtney version. Yeah, it is the old washed up man. So now we got Tim Drake's dad with a 1911, and he's trapped in the room with Captain Boomerang, who's got his sharp boomerangs out, and we don't know why Captain Boomerang's there. We're just assuming maybe he's been the killer the whole time, I guess. But Tim Drake's dad, he's no punk, man. He just leans over, fucking da 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 da. 3 shots to the chest, and Captain Boomerang goes down, but not before he can throw one of his sharp boomerangs. And so
right into the chest.
Hits him right in the heart, the old ticker. And so this chapter was called Father's Day. I was like, holy shit. Like, come on, man. But yeah, so Tim Drake's dad gets killed. And this is also one of the saddest fucking moments of this comic. Tim Drake arrives too late. He's running up the stairs, pulling off his Robin costume. He gets to his dad, who's got a boomerang, like a razor blade boomerang, stuck in his chest. He fucking pulls that fucker out, and he like holds his. He's trying to hold his dad, but Batman comes and is like I've got you, and it's one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, this
thing.
panel in particular is very like.
Yeah, Tim Drake is just in like shock. He's crying.
Yeah,
and Batman's holding him because Batman knows what it feels like, you know. So
plus we also went through this with the first Robin.
Yeah. And so this is where it alludes to the son becoming like evil or whatever. Is on the next day, the Captain Boomerang's son goes to the crime scene to be like, "It's my dad." And he's like, "All right, son, but you know, like we don't give a fuck because he was the bad guy. So like, you can kind of go fuck yourself." And then he's like, "No, like, but how can you let him in there?" And he sees Batman in there, and he's like, "Who are you talking about? It's just us agents here, boy." And then like. He's like, "No, the Batman." He's like, "The Batman? Like, I don't know what you're speaking about." So they're basically like making him angry, like by ignoring his dad's death. And I think that's what later on he becomes Captain Boomerang again. So now
we'll take on the mantle. Everybody
is getting super into their families again because of, you know, everybody's been dying. So, you know, every family member that anybody has is they're all trying to, you know, get together and feel good about everything. And so
Green Arrow's like, "Come here, son, no training today." Give him
I just want to hug you. And then so like we said, Batman is the guy that's kind of like gonna solve everything anyway, right? And he's been trying to like find all these things going on, like what the actual pieces are. But it's behind the scenes. He never actually showed it in the comic until now. Like, you actually see him in action because he's pissed off because Tim Drake's dad died. So, like, he's in action. He's looking for clues. It's funny because the calculator actually, like, puts him on a wild goose chase for a little bit. But in the end, we see the guys who performed the autopsy on Sue Dibney. They find something on her brain. And they're like, she didn't die from like smoke inhalation or the beatings or anything. She actually died from like a brain aneurysm. So what happened was they start looking at this brain, this photo, like like microscopic information.
Right before they're looking at that, that's where that's where Green Lantern and the Flash are
I forgot about this.
Yeah, they're going over that scene, and they're like, "But we need to talk about Batman because you didn't say Batman was there before," and the reason is
the scene where Sue got raped. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, the scene where Sue was raped initially. That's the
in the
start
Justice
of all
Tower.
of this.
Yeah, with Dr. Light.
So it was just a couple of them there, and they all discussed that they were gonna. So when they take Sue to the hospital, Batman goes with them.
Yeah.
And it's just a couple of them that decide, we're going to lobotomize or we're going to erase Dr. Light's memory.
Yeah.
And then just as they're erasing his memory, Batman comes back, and Batman is livid. He's like, "What the are you guys doing?"
So then they're like, "All right, time to erase his memory." We took a vote.
Everybody hold down Batman. We're taking a vote. We're doing this.
Yeah, so they actually erased Batman's memory. And that's what we're saying, like, he knows too. Like, there's no way he doesn't know that happened. He's the greatest detective in the world.
Exactly. That was the interesting part about it, because they're like, so they did this to Batman, and they're like, so he still isn't. Well, and yeah, even Green Arrow's like, well, now he's the greatest detective, so he's gonna figure it out eventually. But like, if we didn't do it at the time, like as crazy as it was gonna get, like it would have destroyed the Justice League.
Right. Yeah, because like you can't have Batman be out of the Justice League or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's basically how they justified it. You know, like if we didn't do it, he would have destroyed the Justice League as we knew it, and we needed the Justice League then. So yeah, that was like a big reveal. And then as I was saying, like where the autopsy guys figure out like what happened.
Yeah, this big reveal.
Batman also figures out what happened at the same time, because he's like goes back after like escaping from the calculator's trap or whatever. He's like, "It's so weird. like everything in that place has been, searched like down to the molecule. And like he's got this surprise look on his face when he says molecule, and then we find out the coroner or it's the superheroes that are doing the autopsy. They look at the brain with a microscope and they see two little footprints on the brain next to right where the embolism happened or whatever. And so basically now they're making us think it's like Ray Palmer is the killer. And this part, I love this part, even though it's kind of a cheesy reveal, but this is where they reveal the whole bad guy of everything. You're thinking it's got to be Ray Palmer, whatever.
Yeah.
And
it's fun the way, because Ray shows back and it shows Ray and his wife, and they're like, oh, what a long day or whatever kind of thing. Yeah. They're gonna connect and be lovers or whatever.
Yeah, make some love. They're talking to each other. They look like they're about to get frisky at night or whatever. And then what we find out is they're talking and she's trying to get like information about what the people know. She's like, oh, tell me about the case or whatever. And like speaking of, like, did they ever find out who wrote that note to Jack Drake? And he's like, what? Like, he just stops. He's like, no, how'd you know about that note? And he like turns the light on. And so everybody, all the superheroes are like, it's not Ray. Or they think it's Ray. And Batman's like, no, it's not Ray. And then that's where we find out that she's trying to like cover up now because she's like, oh, the note, it was in the papers. And Ray's like, no, it wasn't. Only Batman knew about that note. It was, and so he's like, oh my God, it was you. Like, you knew. And so basically what they kind of allude to is that because they got divorced, she got half his shit, including like some little suits, like prior suits that he had made where he could shrink down. So she came up with an idea because she actually wanted to get back with him. And what she came up with was to get some like sympathy for like spouses and shit. She thought, okay, I'll like just I'll stage an attack on Sue Digby. And she looks fucking crazy in this drawing. Like, he did a good job drawing her like crazy. This is where like the Fatal Attraction / like Hand That Rocks the Cradle, comes out of this. Yes. It is really good. The art in this section was really good. But she looks fucking insane. And but like she's like, I just was gonna pretend to knock her out, and then everybody would be like, oh no, we gotta worry about our spouses, and then maybe you would be like, my ex-spouse, maybe I like her too again, and then like we could be together again, and it worked, and we love each other. And there's one picture where she looks fucking insane, where she's like, it would be just like the old days, and like she's got her fucking smile on. Oh, she looks like the Joker or some shit.
And that alludes right back to what we were saying when she tried to kill herself, stage a killing of herself.
Yeah, just to get sympathy.
Yeah,
it worked.
And that's why when she came to from that, she was like, just like the old day.
Yeah, and so he's like, oh my God, you're insane. So then we see what happened. So they show she went into Sue Digby's ear from the phone because Ray Palmer can he gets around through phone lines sometimes because he can travel on electrons and whatnot. So he goes through the phone, or she goes through the phone into Sue Digby's ear, and she was just gonna like, I guess, knock her out, but she's like, it was all so disorienting inside of her brain because like she's not used to wearing the suit. And I only went up a little bit in mass, and I guess that was enough to like give her an embolism.
Yeah. And
then she like did it on accident basically, and then she was like, "Well, I brought some weapons just in case," because that she had shrunk down, so she unshrunk them and like burned her. Like all this super fucked up.
So she brought a flamethrower.
Yeah, she did bring a flamethrower. Let's say that it wasn't an accident to bring a flamethrower. And she's like, I just didn't want to go to jail. And then so I staged like my hanging, and then it worked. Then you came back to me, and everything was good. And he's like, oh my God, you're fucking crazy.
Oh, come on, baby, you love me.
Yeah, and so he basically just takes her to Arkham and like, what's that called? You bring someone to a insane asylum?
Yeah,
whatever that's called. not incarcerate them, but you know.
You just like give them that, like they become a patient of the state, or
Yeah, a ward of the state.
Ward of the state.
So, yeah, I guess he signed her over and was like, she's crazy.
She crazy.
So, yeah, you know, he's just so like fucking hurt by this, and he can't look his fucking friends in the eyes anymore because his crazy wife killed Batman's, you know, Tim. Like, oh, that was the other thing. Like, we thought, oh, how did Boomerang was the bad guy? How does that make sense for her? But she, in trying to like keep this thing going and like have other like suspicion thrown from her, she hired through the calculator Dr. Boomerang. She's like, I didn't know he was going to kill him. I gave him a gun and I told him to hire some loser. And it's like, well, Captain Boomerang was still a super villain, you know, back in the day.
Yeah.
And so like, he was a cheap, you know, loser at the time, but you could still throw a boomerang. And then Tim Drake's dad, he just has a gun. Well, you know, you put him in that situation. So she like did all this stuff, and it like Ray Palmer can't look his fucking friends in the face. How's he supposed to like, you know, ever see them again? He just shrinks down. It just shows him like shrinking down, and I was so sad.
That's what I say. He just shrinks down and just like disappears.
Yeah, he's just like, I can't be around. Like, how could I ever face them again? And he just shrinks away, which I thought was like a very sad ending for him, like, but very like true.
Yeah,
it was like that's what I would do. Like, I just want to shrink down into nothingness because how small can you get? But then you see like everybody else is like, you know, everybody's really valuing their family time now, and
so it's still good. It's still to get some good.
Yeah, and then like
it's horrible.
It's so some good, you know. Yeah, and then like, you know, even Batman's like, Mom, Dad, it's been a hard week or whatever, you know, and Superman's hanging out with his mom and dad, and so yeah, we get pretty much like exactly what she thought was going to happen, which is like, oh, everybody reconnects or whatever. And these last couple of pages was like the whack art I was talking about, where like it looks pretty shitty.
Yeah,
and they're like, just get this fucking thing out. All right, we already got the main reveal, so who cares? And basically the main reveal is just was just like, oh, the Justice League meet up again, and Wally West was gonna say something to Batman. It was like he was gonna reveal like, hey, we brainwashed you, or they brainwashed you. But he looks at Batman and he's like, never mind, like maybe it is better or whatever. And then everybody goes off to fight evil or whatever. So, but then we get the epilogue, which is possibly the saddest.
Oh my gosh,
thing
like,
ever.
To be honest, like I was like, okay, let's see, and then at the end of this, I was like, why did they include this? Oh my god,
this epilogue. I mean, I love this. Is like, this hit me hard. I mean, this is what I would be like if I lost my wife or something. So, like, it's epilogue. It's Ralph Digby, the elongated man. He's talking to his wife. You know, it seems like he's talking to her. He's like, oh, you're nuts. I can't tell him that. That's a funny joke or whatever. You know, like he's basically, you know, you see the house, it says, you know, there's all these flowers that say our deepest sympathies. And like, there's a lot of beer and alcohol in the kitchen. And basically he's talking to himself. He's telling like old 50s jokes and stuff, which I thought you would have appreciated this joke that he tells, because it's like an old timey joke. I don't know if you read the whole joke.
What is it?
But it was like, he says, he's like, oh, let me tell you the story. I'll just read the whole joke. He says, there's this 90-year-old man named Benny who's on his deathbed, and his wife next to him is holding his hand. His wife's name is Dottie, and she says, so Benny says, Dottie, we've been married for 60 years. When I was drafted, you were into the war. You were there by my side. When we lost every penny in the stock market, you were there by my side. And now here on my deathbed again, you're right by my side. Dottie, my love, after all these years, I just want to tell you, you're a jinx, because you're here whenever bad things happen. So, but then he's like, pretty good, huh? Then he shuts the light off and he gets into bed, and then he's like, he says something that like actually requires her to talk. He says, oh, you haven't heard that one before. He's like, how do I know? Because I'm your husband. And then he looks and there's no one there, so he's just talking to no one. And he's like, oh, I guess we'll talk later. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, Sue. And then he says, then there's like a blank screen and it says, I love you too. Like if she said, I love you. And then that's it. And it's the fucking saddest.
It was so sad and depressing.
It hits you right in the fucking feels.
Yeah.
This comic actually made me have emotional reactions at least 4 times. And I was, while it's not the best comic ever or whatever, like it does definitely hits you when it gets you when it can. So,
yeah.
On that note, what did you think of this comic, John?
Overall, I liked it. I didn't like the reveal as much, and I maybe
like who it was.
Yeah, maybe that's because I don't have as much emotional stake in the character.
No one does. No one. She wasn't like anybody before.
Okay.
No.
Well, still, I was just kind of like, oh, that's. I was like, really?
It was a mislead, because who else? I think it was. The only reason I like it is because I've been watching a lot of trashy 90s movies like Fatal Attraction and Hand That Rocks the Cradle and stuff with my wife, and I'm like, these bitches are crazy. And so there was one called Obsessed with Beyonce that was amazing that we need to watch. But yeah, this had that feel to it. Like they did a real good job capturing that crazy sense in it. So yeah. But anyway, back to how you thought of it.
Yeah. But I mean, I liked it overall, and then especially like I said, when I cleared up a couple of I was like, how did that go down exactly? Like, and like the Green Lantern thing, I was like, oh, okay, you feel like I mean, it was solid. It was a good read. It was fun, and yeah, I liked it. And there was some art that was really good, and there was some art that was not so good. So that was kind of
hit and miss.
Hit and miss, but overall, yeah, it was fun. I liked it, and like it was a solid story.
How about like as a mystery? Like if you were reading this.
Oh, I definitely didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
It definitely was a good whodunit.
Yeah. And they kept like misleading you, but not misleading you dumbly. Like, if anything, the other ones, if it was Dr. Light or Captain Boomerang or one of those, it might have made more sense. Like, or but more fulfilling because you're like, oh, at least it's a villain or whatever.
Yeah, that's true, and that's true, and it technically would have been more straightforward to lead you to a villain path. So I guess in that sense, I mean, it was a better like twist. So.
Yeah. So what would you give this one, John?
I'd probably say 7.
7? Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a 7 too. I don't think it was like groundbreaking or anything, but a lot of giant moments happened in this. Tim Drake's dad dies. That's continuity. Firestorm dies. That's continuity. That's like those are in history now in DC Universe that are like staying still, like are in there.
Have not changed.
Have not changed. Sue Dibney is dead. That's in there. The idea that Dr. Light got his mind fucked with, and so did Batman and possibly other Justice League members. That threw that in there. So that's all in reality or in continuity too. So like, there's a lot of things that happen in this.
Is Elongated Man going forward? Is he able to cope? Is he okay?
Yes, okay. He's in the 52.
Okay, cool.
So he's in 52. Okay. So
we'll get him. Next.
Yeah, we get him later. So I told John we got to read 52 sometime. For all of you who don't know, that was a weekly series that came out for a whole year. It's called 52 because there's 52 issues.
That's crazy.
But they're like, I think they're shorter issues. I think they're 18 pages long each, and they're like they have 4. There's only 4 volumes for the collection, so can't be that long. So, and then also we want to read the Crisis books. So I think if you're down, John, we could dip our toe into the Crisis books.
And what would be the first one again? Crisis
on Infinite Earths.
Okay.
The first 6 issues, because like I said, it's 12 issues.
Yeah, that's true. We're going
to break that into 2 parts.
A part 1 and a part 2. We'll leave you on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. And so we're going to read that next week. Should be fun. We might take breaks in between if we get a little too bogged down in continuity or need to take a break from DC or something. We'll see. I know we're going to do a Christmas episode, like a special episode. So we'll do that one too. That'll be a break in between too. So won't be too boring for all you, but these are like big moments that everybody needs to know about if you want to know DC Comics.
Yeah, because I mean that's one thing with DC we've talked about is
it's so deep. There's so much stuff to know. You know,
they will deep cut you from like 14, 20 years ago, and you just are supposed to know what's going on.
Yeah. So we're doing that for you guys. We're reading the hard stuff and explaining it to you. And so you don't have to read Identity Crisis. Now you know who killed Sue Dibney. You know, like, you know how Firestorm died. You know all these things. So that's what we do. We do it for you guys, you know? So, yeah, we're going to read the first half of Crisis in Infinite Earths. I have never, like I said, finished this series. So I've only read probably the first 6 issues.
Okay, good. So, yeah, so this will be good.
I've never read Infinite Crisis either. So, like, I'm still new to these ones as well. I just have read enough around them to know what happens. But I've never read them themselves. So,
nice.
And that is written by Marv Wolfman. And I don't know who does the art. But, yeah, it's from the 80s. It's from, like, 1986, I believe, or 85. So it's right in the middle of the 80s. Right around that Teen Titans / Swamp Thing / Hellblazer era, you know, in the 80s. So a lot of interesting stuff happening. So look forward to that for that next week. And if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, @gmail.com.
And don't forget about our Instagram, our Twitter, and our YouTube channel for exclusive content. We're gonna have some stuff coming out here.
Yeah, we're working on that. I got a couple book reviews I'm going to do, hardcover reviews. I got a new Sin City, that big-ass, you know, Sin City collection, the one and everything in one that I was going to review. And then John's got a special one we're not going to reveal yet, but we're going to do another unboxing of a statue. So that's coming out for this Christmas time. And so check that out on YouTube. And until next time.
Wow, we'll see you on the next one.
Yep, bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.